We will now solve a very simple example on percentages, and this example will help us in calculating symbol values for percentages. Also we will see what are the various types of arithmetic operations that can be performed on percentages. So let us see the example what we are trying to do. Suppose there is an exam in which the total marks are 600, and out of 600 the percentage scores of various students are given. For example, A has scored 100%, B has scored 80%, and so on. So values of the different percentages has to be calculated. For example, what will be the value or what will be the marks scored by the student whose percentage score is 12.5%. We will try to solve this particular example. Now, what will be the starting point? Starting point will be A equal to 100%. So, a student who has scored 100% will be getting 600 out of 600 marks, and therefore the marks obtained by A will be equal to 600. And now, what we are going to do, if A has scored 100% and D has scored 50%, what does that mean? D has scored half the marks as compared to A. Because what is the relationship between 100% and 50%? Relationship is very clear. 50% is half of 100%. You add 50% plus 50%, you are going to get 100%. So, if from 100% you need to go to 50%, what you need to do? You need to divide by 2. And therefore, if the left hand side is being divided by 2, the right hand side should also be divided by 2. And 600 divided by 2 comes out to be equal to 300, and therefore the marks scored by D will come out to be equal to 300. Similarly, from 100%, if you want to calculate 10%, you need to divide by 10. So 100% divided by 10 will be equal to 10%. Similarly, 600 divided by 10 will come out to be equal to 60. So the value of 10% will come out to be equal to 60. Now 10% divided by 10 will come out to be equal to 1%. Similarly, 60 divided by 10 will come out to be equal to 6. So what we are going to do, we will divide both of these, 10% equal to 60, left hand side as well as right hand side, by 10. So 10% we have already written here, divided by 10, 1%, and 600 divided by 10 will come out to be equal to 6. And what is the most interesting thing, once you get the value of 1%, it is very simple to calculate all other percentages value. You can calculate 2%, 3%, half percent, 2.5%, and so on. So let us try to do that. 1% equal to 6. 1% divided by 2 is 0.5%, and 6 divided by 2 will come out to be equal to 3. After that, okay, let us see what will be the value of 2.5%. See, what is 2.5%? 1% plus 1% plus half percent will come out to be equal to 2.5. So 1% is 6. 6 plus 6 plus 3 will come out to be equal to 15, and that is why the value of 2.5% will come out to be equal to 15. Similarly, if 10% is 60, then what will be the value of 20%? You need to do doubling. 10% multiplied by 2 is 20%, and 60 multiplied by 2 will come out to be equal to 120. Now, from 1%, 10%, we can calculate the value of 13%. So what will be 13%? 13% will be 10% plus 1% plus 1% plus 1%. So what is the value of 10%? We have already calculated it. It is equal to 60. Then what is the value of 1%? That is equal to 6. Again plus 6. Again plus 6. So that will be 60 plus 18, which will come out to be equal to 78. So the value of 13% will come out to be equal to 78. Similarly, by adding 10% and 2.5%, we can calculate the value of 12.5%. So 10% plus 2.5% is 12.5%. Similarly, 60 plus 15 will come out to be equal to 75. So value of 12.5% will come out to be equal to 75. Now, if you want to calculate the value of 87.5%, how that can be calculated? We will apply a slightly different approach here. See, what is 87.5%? Take 100% and subtract 12.5%, you will get 87.5%. So what we will do, similar operation we will perform on the other side. See what we did, 100% minus 12.5% is 87.5%. So 600 minus 75, which will come out to be equal to 525, will be the value of 87.5%. Similarly, you multiply 10% by 4, you will get the value of 40%. So 60 multiplied by 4 will come out to be equal to 240, and you double 40%, double of 40% will be 80%. Similarly, you double 240, the value will come out to be equal to 480. Now, how we can calculate 17.5%? So that can be 20% minus 2.5% will come out to be equal to 17.5%. So when you perform 20% minus 2.5%, we are performing an operation on the left hand side. Similar operation you perform on the right hand side. So 120 minus 15 will come out to be equal to 105, which will be the value of 17.5%. I hope you are very clear with this example. The fundamental rule that you need to remember is total will always be 100%. You divide 100% by 10, you will get 10%. You divide 100% by 100, you will get 1%. Or you divide 10% by 10, you will get 1%. What is the fundamental rule here? Simple arithmetic operations are satisfied by percentages. What do I mean to say? 10% plus 5% will become 15%. 10% divided by 2 will become 5%. Similarly, 10% multiplied by 2 will become 20%, and so on. So, total can always be broken into smaller parts, and then different percentage values can be